So
Good.
there wasn't as much damage as intended. And then in other states, we're having heat wave conditions as well. So lots of bushfires and things going on. But where I am in Sydney, I'm quite safe. So
Good. Good. And I'm Melanie, and I'm in North Alabama, just outside of the Rocket City, and it is 6 o'clock in the evening here, 6:03 to be exact. And our weather has gotten so cold. It was like 29 degrees this morning, which is really awful in Celsius. And so I just stayed in next to the fire today.
Sounds
And
great. That sounds
welcome,
awesome.
Jesus.
Hi,
We are
everybody.
so glad to have you here.
Jesus here. Nice to meet you all. Melanie, we've been talking on TikTok here and there. I didn't realize it was Mark's friend. So nice to officially meet you. I am in
Yeah.
Salt Lake City, Utah. For anybody who doesn't know me, I am in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's 5 o'clock here, and it is so cold. It has been so cold. I haven't even gone out today. I just decided to just stay in and not by the fire, but definitely by the furnace. So I'm right there with you, Melanie. But we
We
have
don't.
we have a great show for you guys. This We're doing a little something different, at least for me, but familiar at the same time. So I mean, we're alternative thinkers, so we all share that. So we like to think outside of the box, I guess is a way to put it. But it is nice to kind of
So, guys,
me and Mark had been talking about it for some time now. So I was like, let's do
Really,
it. Start the
I
year
don't
off.
know about you. I didn't know there was a box.
oh
Yeah,
well, we'll
yeah.
call it the
I've
planets
I've
aligning
heard
in the
about
right
it, but I've
position.
never really physically
Yes.
physically adjusted to it.
first topic of discussion, guys. I'd like to bring up what your thoughts of the location in America, Area 51, and get your opinions and personal perspectives on it and stories you've heard about it.
Well, I lived in Mesquite, Nevada, which I believe is Area 50. And when they would put uh, it up on the news for years, they would just mark an X across 51. Like you couldn't think that between 50 and 49, or no, between 50 and 52, that wasn't going to be Area 51. In fact, a lot of the men from the small town actually helped build the original infrastructure and buildings. They would go out during the week and work at Area 51. And then they would come home on the weekends to tend their ranches and gardens and take care of their families. So uh,
So is
it
that
was
basic?
something normal.
Is that how Mesquite? Because I lived in Vegas very briefly.
Mhm.
I didn't have I mean, I talked to a few locals about Area 51, but a lot of people seem to really be kind of done with that topic. Because you're in Vegas, so you have a million people coming in and moving out. So I'm sure they've heard of that question like maybe 10 times
Yeah.
throughout the day.
The,
So
the,
I didn't know that about Mesquite actually.
yeah. The irony there was that for the little airport that was in Mesquite, which was quite sufficient, uh, the flyover zone, if you crashed, would put you out into Area 51. And if the ambulances or fire trucks took off to go chase the accident, to take care of people, you are stopped right there at that fence and don't you dare touch it.
No.
We'll bring you whatever we sweep up back to the fence, but do not come across. So it was literally that close.
Wow,
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hi, Carol. Nice to see you guys. And Christopher's here, and
Oh,
everybody,
wow.
everybody
Uh,
in the audience. Welcome to
Hi
the
everyone.
mystery podcast.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Well, the
Yes.
So,
thing the thing I
Carol,
find fascinating about Area 51 is that everyone knows about it. So it's no secret. And it's even become that tourist destination in that little town, Rachel, is it?
Yes. Yes.
So, and then I recall just before we had that episode that shut down the globe, someone on Facebook, some young college student, decided to create a prank, an event called Let's Storm Area 51. And that's where he did that silly Naruto run in front of all the security guards, and it became a sensation. And I think it started out with 50 people, and then it ended up with a couple of thousand, and
Well,
turned
yeah.
into a huge festival. But it was
Whatever
very
happened? I don't
peaceful.
even
And
know whatever happened with that. Whatever
oh, it's
happened?
like everything. It's like everything in our history. It gets pushed aside, forgotten
If we
about.
don't mention it, it didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And this is where those silly people that sit there and go Mandela effect. I don't recall that, but you know,
Well, yeah, I don't think that people really realize that we have basically one source of media.
Yes.
exactly.
And until you kind of get that, do you realize that the narrative comes from as soon as you turn on the TV and you go to the news? I don't anymore. It's been I think
Now,
years now that I just avoid the news like the plague.
yeah.
Occasionally, I'll here and there just to kind of be informed, but I realize that it's so biased, and it doesn't matter where you see it. So me and Sharon have talked about it on our other show.
Uh-huh.
You have to. Me personally, what I like to do is watch 10 different sources of information, because
Yeah.
there's going to be a little bias in each one. But when you kind of see you got to see the full picture, the big picture. You got to
Exactly.
think bigger. I
Yeah.
always say that, think bigger, because you can't just you have to look at other perspectives too, and then you kind of get the idea of what's happening. You can't just think locally, you have to think globally, sometimes solar system wide. You just have to think bigger, because
Yeah.
we are controlled a lot more than we really want to uh admit or accept, but we are brainwashed on a daily basis, and there's no better example of what's happening right now here in America. And it's coming from
But
both sides. I'm not even going to take a stand on either side, because I think they're both full of shit. I think both of them are.
Yes.
but then
Because
when you look at
we have, go ahead.
human psychology, sorry, but when you look at human psychology, we're always trying to find a hook that it resonates with us. So
Mm,
this is
That's
why
right.
all these multitude of sources are out there. It's like our personal groups that we're involved
No,
with.
that's right. That's right.
yes.
All of us
Yeah.
have the same narrative and the same understanding of what we're dealing with. And there's so many other groups out there that have the same idea, but we're not making the impact. Isn't it about time we all come together and put that united thought together so that we
Absolutely.
can make everyone understand what it means to live in today's society?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because we haven't really introduced you, Jesus and Sharon, could you tell us about the other podcasts, the ones that you participate on, which was absolutely magnificent this last week?
Well, thank you. Even
Oh,
though I
thank
missed
you.
last week's show, but
It's a group effort, trust me. Like
Yeah.
I've been
we
watching
all
the.
have our different backgrounds, but we all come together when we know that the Citizen Science podcast for Nibiru,
Mhm.
Followers Anonymous, we all recognize the same objective that Samuel Hoffman has been promoting
Yeah.
for 16 years. And I find it intriguing how one man who's had all this information hasn't been able to amalgamate with all of the other people that have been out there disclosing information, like Bob Lazar and the Corey Goods and all of those kind of people. But I also look at it from the point of view as Sam will not be bought, bargained, broken. He
Yes.
is a man of integrity, which
That is
makes
the
you
reason.
question of what kind of these people, what are these people? Are they just for their own self-promotion? Because they've got millions of followers. So how intriguing is it that they detach themselves from us, but they still promote the same messages?
You know,
And
that is a great point, Sharon. It's one of the reasons why I want to make one thing clear. I've been accused a lot of many times of just being brainwashed by Sam. That Sam just shows us what to see. But here's the thing: it didn't start out that way. We
No.
were seeing something we didn't understand years. At least for me, it was years. It took
yeah,
me about a year, almost 2 years, to come to find Sam. But I was taking pictures of the sky. I noticed that our skies were not the same. I did notice that. So we found Sam out of knowing or knowing that something was different but not understanding what it was. When I heard Sam, I knew this guy was
yes.
he's just his integrity, and I think that says it all. In my
When we, yeah, when
you
we
know
interviewed him, he was so fascinating. And everything he said from the very first word just resonated with things that
yep,
I had seen. And it was like, wow, where has this been? You know,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I, everyone I tell about the binary solar system, they just kind of look and say,
oh
well,
yeah,
of course it's that way.
yeah, yeah,
I
it
could
is,
understand that.
it is.
Hey,
Mm.
Suze, can we go into a little brief background about who actually Samuel Hoffman is, just for the guests that are watching?
Of course. So Samuel Hoffman wrote a paper when he was 17 years old in high school. He wrote a science paper that where he took on Einstein's theory of the gravity well theory, and he says there's no way that was possible because according to atomic mass, it makes no sense that our bigger planets are on the outer part of our
Okay.
solar system, because if it was gravity, the bigger planets would be closer to our star, because that's just they're heavier, they're more
Mhm.
mass. So it doesn't. So he took on it and said that there had to be a second sun, which is 80%. About 85% of solar systems out there are actually binary, trinary, etc.
Mm.
A single star system is actually more um, unusual than a binary. So he wrote a paper, and but a few weeks later, people with black suits and
Mm.
government vehicles and that stuff were having coffee with his parents, and they offered him non. They offered him a job, but he had to agree to a non-disclosure for 30 years. Those 30 years came up in 2009, 2010, I
Yes.
believe. And he started talking, and the rest is history. It grew slowly, and then it kind of took on a life of its own, and then now we're kind of seeing it. I think we're getting really being messed with, because I don't feel the numbers kind of making it add up. Where we go from.
Mhm.
I've literally seen our numbers go backwards sometimes. When I
Really?
go to YouTube, I'm like, they literally see that go backwards. I'm like, that's not a mistake. That's not a algorithm.
Uh,
There's something wrong with that. There's something really wrong with that. So I do feel that Sam said this in one of his interviews on what is that? Can't remember the show. What is the show?
Radio Wasteland, was it?
Radio Wasteland was right at the tip of my tongue. In one of his interviews, he says, gosh, kind of lost my train of thought there. Point is, yeah, sorry, kind of lost my train of thought there, guys. But point, yeah, he wrote the paper, and the rest is history, and here we are.
how do we
Yeah,
overcome
but
that?
Um,
well, that's the hardest point, isn't it? Because of the
Mhm.
opposition that we face. We're independent thinking people. We're critical thinkers that have knowledge that can change humanity. What are the powers above governing that say,
Yeah.
no, we don't want that? We want you to be confused. We want you to be isolated. We want you to be disconnected, because that means that they have the power to then dictate how we operate in this reality. instead of us being independent free thinkers that can unite together and work for fundamentals of humanity. Why are we here? We're here to develop, grow, and evolve. We're not here meant to be suffering and at the
Right.
hands and the mercy of these overlords.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
of the resources were put on this earth for man to make the most of. And yet there seems to have been a fence put around mankind to make sure do not touch the resources, don't think too much.
Well, yeah,
And
yeah.
then,
Recently somebody told me that here well, in most countries now,
mhm.
80% of the trees that are planted are, I think, males, so they don't give any fruit. And
Oh,
that tells you just how messed up things have gotten, because homeless people out there could feed themselves if there was an apple tree, right? If there
yeah.
was a cherry tree, these are natural growing, or we could grow them. But here in Salt Lake, what they did recently was they started fencing the trees. So when it got hot, the homeless people couldn't go and sit under the trees, and
Oh,
that's insanity.
Well,
That's insanity that we
it's
live
the
in a
same
world.
here. You, the place used to be covered in trees. Within 20 minutes from me used to be orchards. We used to go there and pick fruit with
oh,
my grandmother. Now it's the suburban drawl. Everything is concrete.
Yeah.
When you remove all the trees, I went back on Google Earth and had a look at this house and all the trees that were
oh,
down our street. Beautiful 30-year-old trees. Then they decided to do some construction across the road. And because of that construction, all the trees were taken. So that
yeah.
increases the heat factor because we're getting solar radiation constantly beaming down on hot asphalt, grey concrete, and white surfaces. So everything feels hotter than what it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Now,
So,
with the, I was going to ask Sharon a question. Doesn't the, doesn't this change and everything that's happening now? I mean, it's obvious to me that the earth itself is undergoing dramatic changes. It's not
Oh,
just the
absolutely.
people.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely. We,
well,
we
we
just,
have
you
to
know, it's like,
recognise that that's the influence of the planets that we're currently being surrounded
yeah.
by. We're in this snooker game with these planets that are
mhm,
10 times, 100 times our size.
Yeah.
So we've got to recognize too that they have their own atmospheres, their own internal dynamics, their own magnetic forces,
They
and
have
how they
clouds.
operate within their system also impacts us down here.
Absolutely.
okay,
Absolutely.
yes, I can
And I
see that.
can't stress this enough. They have clouds. They have blue. If there's an atmosphere, they're gonna look blue. Not only because atmosphere is water, it's gases, it's gonna look blue. With the sun's interaction in the day, it's gonna look blue. Also, because I have our own blue skies, we see
Uh-huh,
anything that we see in the day is gonna have that blue spectrum, and it can get people to really process that. Is that people
Yeah,
say, well, it's just clouds.
okay,
Well, yes, there's clouds, but they're not our clouds. Okay.
yeah.
They're not. There's a lot of clouds. And
yeah,
I just saw a commercial for an ad for Google that actually now
mhm,
explains to you what crazy clouds are. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
that you would definitely have that. They just explain it away and make it normal. And that's a big problem. We so easily forget what normal is. You could be around the strangest thing long enough and it becomes normal. We
that's
but
didn't
we've
have
always
these.
been
We
led
didn't.
to believe our peers and our doctors and our professors in
yes, yes,
everything that we've been taught because they are more superior because of their backgrounds, their intelligence, and all the rest of it. But you can have children with ADHD that can see a landscape and then reproduce it on a wall
Yeah.
to scale
yes,
in exact detail.
Hey, JD.
So and yet they're classified as problems because they don't fit the normal
right,
concept of what it means to be living in this avatar right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. Now, here's a question regarding space and everything. When did the sun quit being yellow? I mean, we still teach children in school that you get the yellow crayon to draw the sun, but someone had pointed that out to me recently, and I went outside and looked, and it's like, when did it turn white?
Well, from my understanding of the approach of the binary solar system that came into view
Mhm.
early 2010, 2011, as it's approached us, it's got closer and closer to our sun. And
Okay.
again, it's in a dance. If you can imagine two things in a
Mhm.
dance together, what's happened is the second sun, which is called a Miru, which is another dwarf star, as it's approached us,
Okay.
it's a much bigger star than ours. So as it's approached ours, it's actually come in front of ours, and this is why the sun is more intense.
Oh,
Ours is slightly
okay.
behind it, being obscured all the time.
And it's also
So
if you look at years before it, our sun wasn't this big. Like it
no,
used to be about the
Oh,
size of
that's
a
true.
dime.
That's true.
It used to
Yeah.
yeah.
be, and now you look at it, and it's like sometimes I look at it, I'm like, it just feels wrong. Like this is
And
not
you know
our.
yourself
Oh.
when you're outside, it only takes a couple of
Yeah,
moments for it to start burning your
yeah,
skin,
yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yes.
so that
That
means
is
a
something
higher
that
intense radiation as well.
but I think that's just going right back real quick to what we were saying about Sam, about how we think that we have to listen to doctors and scientists and all
Mm.
these people that are highly educated on paper. What
Mm,
I love about Sam is that he says no, we all can learn this stuff, and I think
Yeah.
and I think purposely they tell us, they make everything look so complicated to keep us thinking that we can't possibly learn this stuff, but we can.
mm.
If I learned what I learned, if Sharon, anybody can do it. Anybody. There's only learned and unlearned. There's no such thing as dumb or
Yes.
I I
Yes.
I don't believe in those things. I believe you either know something or you don't, and anybody can learn it.
But see,
Just
when I
because
was
you don't
growing
have
up,
that fancy PhD, which is in my
yeah,
Yes.
see,
in my way of thinking, it's really I mean, scholars are very biased, and they
yeah,
refuse new knowledge, and it's become a whole religion almost.
yeah.
They
Trust
Yeah.
me, I've had some run-ins with professors where I've got kicked out of um, sessions for objecting to what they're teaching
and
because I
Sam
had
kind of
something new in front of me that predicted what they were saying was completely false. But apart from that, I don't know if you had the same scenario. I grew up under one of those ideologies that you'd go to your parents. If you wanted to know something, you went to your parents first. Can you
Right.
tell me?
Mhm.
Do you
Mhm.
know? And 9 times out of 10, the response I used to get was, we don't know, go pick up a book.
Mhm.
So, in those circumstances, okay, you don't know, so I'm going to find out the knowledge myself.
Yeah.
Whereas these days, people get little snippets of information and then try and explain it away in their own sense of being. They don't really have the full knowledge to be able to direct where that knowledge should go or how it should be used.
Yeah, and I
I
think
agree. I
I think that's
agree.
the point. I think that's really the point. They it's just little snippets of information, but they don't really they give you one piece of the Lego
Yeah.
of the pie,
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
but they don't
only
give you the
reading
whole.
the headline and maybe the caption on the photograph and maybe the first paragraph of anything, especially if it's a newspaper or a magazine.
mm,
Anything that's buried further down that might contain meat and potatoes of
Yeah,
knowledge
yeah.
well,
is
here's a
totally
question. When was the last
forgotten.
time you sat down and actually read a book?
I'm always reading them.
So this is what I mean. It also depends on the kind of material that you're into. Like
Mhm.
my daughter must read at least, I don't know, 2 books a week, and she's always into the fantasy realm, whereas I'm
Uh-huh.
always pulling up science books. I even went to the ops shop yesterday and bought this book, which is
Ooh.
Women in Science. It cost me $1. So now I'm going to be learning about all the women that made an impact on science.
Nice.
But within that, she's laid down a basis for kind of an understanding with the science fiction fantasy. or urban fantasy. So when you come along and make a comment with your scientific background, there's actually a synergy that will build there. We only
Yes and
need to
no.
talk
There's a
to
bit
one
of,
another.
yeah, but then we've got to remember it's a different generation too. So they also have a
That's true.
different mindset. My daughter, when she was going to high school, got very lazy because I'd come home from university and go, "Oh, we're learning about this today." And blah, 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 blah. So she'd take it back to school, and because she
Mhm.
memorized everything I said, she could just sit there
Yes.
and I don't have to do anything. So that was a bad situation. I shouldn't have sort of uh, gone too far with her in that sense. But she, in her own right, is an intellectual because she's the
Mhm.
one that wants to learn the languages and she's obsessed with
Oh,
Japanese
exactly.
things and um, all of those kind of things. So we're completely different personalities. But when it comes to merging ideas, there's always that resistance. And I always cop it off of her. Like I will say to her, she's a bit of a worrier too. It's like if something goes wrong, oh, but
Mhm.
we've got to do this and do that. Where I take that calmness and sit there and say, but hang on, look at the steps we have to go through first before we get to there. Don't jump to conclusions. You
Yes.
don't have all the relative information to make that conclusion.
That's right. That's
So
right.
again, it's generational, and two, it's also life experience, what we've had to deal with, how we've
Yes.
reviewed our life, and how
Yeah.
we've acted to situations that have concerned us in the past.
Yeah.
That's true. Too true.
Well, and
Yes.
life has changed so much just from their generation to ours, you know.
Yeah. And that's
Yes.
why there's this resistance with aliens and planets and technology and all that kind of stuff, because they also have this idea in the back of their mind that the way the world is currently going with everything political, religious, um, environmental, they don't want to know.
Uh,
They're leaving that up
Yes,
to us
that's
to fix.
true.
They don't
Mhm.
want to fix it. They believe it's our mistake. We need to fix it.
And I did have my son in his early 20s tell me that you guys ruined the world. Now, what are we left with?
Mm,
The same opportunity I had
yeah,
to learn and grow, get off the couch, go
yeah.
participate in your community and your local government, and make a difference.
Well, find something that interests you. You know,
Yeah,
whether that be a sport, whether that be a book club or something.
right.
Become social. That way the ideas can expand.
Yes, I agree totally. Totally. You mentioned earlier about each faction, even on the same subject, could draw a slightly different conclusion. Therefore, mine must be right, and yours must be slightly off, and Mark's just out in the woods somewhere. Um, we'll give Jesus a free pass. But if we ever just had a chance to sit down all at the same table and discuss and set aside the uncivil behavior that we have manufactured, um, we could all lift each other so much. We could learn so much by participating together as opposed to staying separate and focused like we had blinders on.
Well, look, Melanie, I
Mm,
think the fighting is at the heart of the problem. You know,
Yes,
people united are strong, and
yes,
they don't put up with that. So they'd rather us fight each other. Oh, the right, the left, the middle, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
Always they hate you for this or there's. If you notice, it happens every politically happens every election. There's always somebody to hate.
right.
There's always somebody that's making your life harder. Not the billionaires that ain't paying their taxes or fair share. They're okay. You know, those ones
Yeah,
receiving subsidies and welfare, corporate welfare, because that's what a subsidy really is. You know, no,
yeah,
it's your neighbor that gets food stamps. You know, he's the one. He's your enemy, not the companies who made bad decisions and now
yeah,
we're bailing them out. We need to cut the crap and get along with each other,
yeah,
because that's the only way we're gonna rise up out of the what
I
the
totally
world has
agree.
become now.
But
Like,
my question is, what is it going to take for everyone to have that unified idea?
yeah,
Is it
I,
going to be a revelation in the sky? Is it
yeah.
going to be something that they manufacture that
Mm.
indulges everyone to have fear and go down that other path that they want us to go down?
well, that's
And
basically
unfortunately, too often we're brought together by a disaster.
yeah.
Well, look at Princess Diana. How united was the
Mm.
world over that event?
Yes.
Man only changes at the precipice of, or when he's over the precipice. Mostly
Yeah.
lately, when he's over the precipice, that's when
Yeah.
people say, "Oh, maybe I should get my head out of my rear end." And I think that's the biggest problem. And I keep telling people, as long as you keep fighting this and fighting that, you're not
Right.
really. You're look. The perfect example of a jar with ants in it. You put fire ants and you put whatever other ants,
Black ants.
black ants,
Uh-huh.
whatever. You shake, they're fine. They're getting along just fine. Nobody's, and then you shake the glass, and then they start fighting each other instead of fighting the
Oh,
person shaking the glass. They're fighting
Yep.
each
there you
other,
go.
and that's what
Oh, wow.
that could not be the best closest analogy of what we're seeing in the entire world, not just here in America, but we're kind of seeing it everywhere.
Yep.
That's
Where these people create this chaos and they get us fighting each other instead of.
So where did that chaos come from? So that must be so far back in our ancestral DNA for us to maintain that aptitude. We've had how many thousands of years to get over ourselves? But
yes.
it's
Yeah,
embedded in our DNA. All of these factors.
I
We've got
agree.
light and dark,
Preconceived notions and so forth.
love and hate. Exactly. We've got all of these virtues within us.
But we used to need it for survival, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
We need it at one point, but we don't need that way of thinking anymore. We
No.
have created a world where we could, I know nobody wants everybody when you use the word utopia, everybody starts freaking out. But we could make that for ourselves. We could,
Well, it's like Sam
um,
says, we should be living in the area of the Jetsons by now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
True.
And
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
technologies, the whole reason, the whole UFO thing is still in question, which is ridiculous. If you feel that's still in question, then I'm sorry, you
Yeah.
are 100 years behind.
Mm.
But there's technologies that we probably most likely have available, but because oil and big all these companies are going to lose so much money out of it, we don't have
Mm.
access to that. There's they people say um uh making money and all that has produces innovation. It does. It makes innovation for things that make money, not for things that help humanity, right?
Yeah.
But we have enough for everybody to be okay now. But as long as everybody's chasing that dollar and everybody wants to have everything, uh, there's always going to be somebody. For somebody to have everything, somebody has to have nothing. There's
That's true.
for every action, there's a reaction. The reason why there's such a financial disconnect now is because you have 10% of the people holding immense amount of wealth while everybody is hungry, barely getting by. You know, uh, it is a difficult time to be in, and we have to get past these ancient way of thinking. This scarcity, we have to stop thinking of scarcity because that's really what they instill in us. That there's a shortage of this, there's a shortage of that. They keep us in this scarcity mindset, but
Yes.
we live in abundance. We have enough and then some. Do you know how much food just here in the US is spoiled, goes to waste just because it doesn't look pretty?
Yeah.
Same. Yep, same here.
I've been ordering food from this place called Misfits. They get
Uh-huh.
food from, and it's not that much cheaper, but it was interesting just to see how they take a lot of food that's just, they take a bell pepper that's a little misshapen, They
Yes.
can't sell that in the stores because it's not pretty enough, right?
Mm.
There's food wasted because it's not pretty to some people. And
Yeah.
instead of giving it away, instead of donating it to people who will eat it, they just decide to throw it because it's better for business, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
need to
Hey,
stop that
hey,
mindset.
Zeus. I want to ask you as well. You recently told me in a discussion that you went to Skinwalker Ranch.
I did.
I've been dying to ask you about that experience.
I told you our experience that I have not. It wasn't something that I spoke about publicly because I don't know. I guess it was still kind of. It was a great experience. I was disappointed with some of the people that I spoke to. Nick Pope from because it was so it was a Skinwalker Ranch cast. Most of them. There was like 4 of them there,
Uh-huh.
and then what I was interested in was more the Ancient Aliens cast. Nick Pope was there, and there was a couple of others. Sukulus would have been great. I love his weird hair. I think he might have paid more attention to it. But I spoke to Nick Pope. I showed him a video, and his reaction was really disappointing. Really, really disappointing. I could not have been more disappointed, honestly. I had fun, but everybody that I spoke to, they were not really. How can I put it? Even in a place with alternative thinkers, and this is what I told Rebecca.
Yeah.
Even in a place with, even in a room full of alternative thinkers, we still stand alone with this binary system thing, because from the people that I spoke to, the feedback that I got was very disappointing. It was. That being
Oh,
said, I had a lot of fun. It was interesting interact with everybody, and be in a place where I wasn't considered, I guess, a little weird, even in the room of alternative thinkers. But I had fun, and on the way out, I was telling Mark the other day. Me and my friend Rachel. I
uh-huh.
don't know if you're listening, Rachel, but hey, love you. Whatever. But she got us the tickets for my birthday, right? So we went
Oh,
together and
wow.
we saw it because she loves Skinwalker Ranch and she knows that I love Ancient Aliens. So she's like, well, it's kind of a self gift. She says it's for your birthday, but it's also for me. So we're gonna go together. I was like, sounds awesome, you know.
Yeah.
But
That's
on
awesome.
our way out, so where the convention was about maybe 5 miles away from Skinwalker Ranch because it's
Okay.
blocked off. You can't even go in there. Even if you took the tour, you could only go as far as the gate,
Oh,
and
wow.
then you could take pictures, whatever, but you can't get closer than that. So right off the road that leads to Vernal, the town just right out.
Right.
Um, there's a road that cuts off to Skinwalker Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
As we approached this road, um, and we saw the brightest, most amazing, closest ever. I've never seen a meteor. In
Oh,
my
wow.
opinion, it was a meteor. Who knows? It was green. Did what a meteor does. It kind of it really shined. It kind of it kind of set on fire the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was really interesting. I was telling Mark, look, I'm not saying it was aliens, but what I am saying that clearly something is attracting. There's like a magnetic something pulling that because it was just too. It was like we literally passed that road,
Uh-huh.
maybe a minute, maybe 5-10 miles down the road, we saw that thing just come in right next to us. Like we both saw it, and I just thought that was an interesting. That
What is
was
the
really
energy
interesting.
like?
That was just a really interesting way of leaving. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
I think the skies are trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
That something
What
is
was
strange
the
happening
energy
here.
of the place like? What was the energy like? Did it have an ambience that you
Yeah,
could
yeah,
feel?
absolutely,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, yes. I want to say is it's again we didn't take the tour because we it was just the price for not even being able to go into the ranch just didn't seem. I just didn't see the point. So I was like, I don't think we
Yeah.
should do that. We should just do other stuff, because there's a lot of extra
Mhm.
stuff that you can do. All comes at a cost, of course. But we decided not to because we're just gonna go to the
Yeah.
gate. I can go do that myself.
Right.
But I
Right.
just I do feel there's definitely an energy in Vernal
Okay.
and that whole area that is a little strange. The triangle area, Carol, sorry, let me answer. Um, the triangle area, is that?
Yeah.
I think you're talking about where there's that. Okay, yeah, there's this rock formation in that area.
Mhm.
Yes, I did get to see that. Of course, you could see it. Just can't see it right off the road, but I definitely, yeah, I pretty sure I know what you're talking about. But
Well,
yeah,
it's
there's.
obscured on Google Earth, Area
That's
51.
I think
quite.
it's that one that looks kind of like. I think she's talking about that. There's.
The vortex is the
It looks kind
strongest.
of like what is that formation in Wyoming? The Devil's Tower. It's just like a rock
Devil's Tower.
formation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
triangle. Hold on.
Okay.
Well, that's
Yeah, I
why that
wondered if
area
it
is so
was.
Okay, I see.
different.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
It's
Area
still.
51 was
okay, I see what you're saying. So we saw the. Okay, I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, see, that's blocked off to the public. You can't drive in
Oh,
them.
wow.
yeah.
You could. There's that rock formation behind. I think that's where they had a
Yeah.
lot of on the
Mhm.
show. They had a lot of weird stuff in that area, but no,
Yeah.
all
Okay.
that's blocked off. All that's blocked off. No, because so somebody, I think some politician from here in Salt Lake actually bought the ranch a couple years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And he blocked it off because there's too many people going in, and people
Can you
can't be
imagine
trusted.
the liability of
Yeah, yeah,
something
and
like
not to
that?
mention that people just can't behave themselves. They can't be trusted, so you have to block it off,
Yes.
or else somebody's going to vandalize it, etc. So I don't blame the
Yeah.
guy, but yeah, there was a lot that I wanted to do, and we still plan on going another year. We didn't. We were going to go next last year, but we weren't able to because it just wasn't a good time. But we do plan on going out there again. Hopefully,
Good. It's called
more.
the Uinta Triangle.
The Uinta. That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
for the
right.
Uinta Mountains.
It's
Yes.
a very interesting little town. It's a very interesting little town. They have some very interesting native arts, and they have the museum, which is very interesting. It's a little small town that really reminded me of Tucumcari, where I was living in New Mexico.
Okay.
Very, very much reminded me of that. The same energy, the same. It's like a place where you go and you're like, yeah, aliens would definitely pass by here and find it, because it's secluded. It's not a whole lot of air traffic. There's not a lot of light pollution. There's not a lot of that stuff. So it'd be perfect to go in and go out.
Well, it was owned by the military at one point
I believe
for
you're right.
research.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
So the fact that it even came back on the market for the gentleman in Utah, in Salt Lake
Exactly.
City, to
Exactly.
purchase it
Who
is
knows?
almost.
God knows how much he must have paid for it because
Mm,
that was a pretty hot spot, for a
yeah.
long time. But there's a lot of interesting things that happen there, and we were speaking, so we got to see some of the during the dinners. So we had a few dinners that we had with the. We paid for a few dinners with the crew. So we had a dinner,
Oh,
and
okay.
at the dinner we had we got to screen some of the episodes that weren't aired, and then some that were going to be aired. So we
Oh,
got to see the
fun.
first ones. And there was one. It probably aired already. It's been years, but the one with the drones. So they were saying that a lot of people were saying that it was probably just staged, but he said that drone company basically went bankrupt
I
because
bet.
he
Yes,
went,
I saw that episode.
basically
Yes.
went bankrupt because they lost so many drones during that episode. So many drones $1,000 drones. Expensive.
And they had a whole grid of them that were supposed to rise at the same
Yeah,
time, and then they
yeah.
started
And then they
falling
started
out.
falling. Yeah, yeah.
You
So he
know?
said, just go and talk to them. Like their insurance company basically just shut the doors on them because it was kind
Uh,
of a relatively a new company, a new drone company, and then it just went horribly wrong. But it was wow, the ranch was purchased. Oh, yeah, it was. So he was saying, of course, there's a lot of people are gonna try to debunk, but he said the company basically went bankrupt, and
that's too bad.
there's no way that was. Plus, it was really dangerous. A lot of people could have gotten hurt. So he said, yeah, it wasn't something that we did whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, and I think he was. I mean, he sounded truthful in my opinion, but 200
Oh,
billionaire
oh,
bought Robert Bigelow. That's right. So Chris is
yeah.
saying the ranch was purchased in '96 by billionaire Robert Bigelow for about 200,000. In 2006, Bigelow sold the property, while some acres vary. Most reliable evidence indicates that the sale price was around 4.5 million, 4.5 million. Wow, to a company called Adamantium Real Estate. Yeah, that sounds about right. I think the whoever the person bought it is yeah, that sounds about because like the adamantium real estate. That's kind of a
Mhm.
strange name, but yeah, that sounds about right, Chris.
Jesus as well. We were talking privately about you. I don't know if you want to talk about it, but you lived near Roswell.
I
That
live
was
near I live near Roswell for about a year, an hour away from Roswell for about almost 20 years, and God,
Oh
is there a
my.
wow.
lot of activity in that area? Absolutely. I think it's probably what got me started into all this stuff, because I've always had an interest in that. And then you live in a place so close to Roswell, it's kind of hard not to be sucked in, right? Uh, but yeah, I saw a lot of interesting stuff in Stack. In fact, during 2006, was it 2018, there was some pretty bad floods in that area, and because it's high desert, we they're not really set up for flooding, for flash flooding like that. It's not normal. I mean,
A
we had a
quarter to a half an inch will wipe
yeah,
things
well,
out.
so we got our lakes got 12 feet, rose 12 feet in about 2 months because of
Oh
the
my.
rain. But it was that bad. Well, during that one, my in-law, one of my mother-in-law at the time, she had given me a small telescope. It was just to look at the moon. It was nothing fancy, but she knew I was into that stuff, so she gave me a small telescope. I was during that time I was looking up at the sky in the day because they had some weather balloons that were up there, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was testing out the telescope, checking out the weather balloon.
Okay.
When I saw it, everything right, it's the weather balloon, whatever. So I look down, I go back because I smoked cigarettes back then. Went out, lit a
Mhm.
cigarette. I look back up where the weather balloon was, and I see a golden orb, and it's coming directly at me. Not at me, but in my direction in the sky.
Oh my goodness.
Golden, it's a gold. It wasn't nothing like the weather balloon. It was literally a freaking orb, right? Just a little. It
Wow.
wasn't a planet because of the way it was moving. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a moon. It was none of that. It was just a orb that looked about this size from my point of view. So it must have been
Okay.
much bigger, right? It comes and then it takes a U-turn and then just disappears. Um,
Well,
from
You
that
took
date.
a photograph.
And also, my brother-in-law calls me right at
uh-huh.
that moment, and he says, "Look at the sky. Did you see that?" So he saw it too. All right, he saw that
Oh,
from orb too, and I think from there on, I just became fascinated, and I just started paying way more attention to the skies. That incident. We have seen what looks like, and somebody recorded it. There's probably some footage out there somewhere on Facebook. Would look like a whole armada of UFOs. It wasn't. It wasn't Air Force. It wasn't none of that. It was something different, and it was actually made of the news. But of course, was written off or my
Yes.
drones or something stupid like that, but it wasn't. I assure you, it was not drones. I had a few incidents. The one with the thistle, like you know those little thistles. What do they call it? It's a Monopoly piece, but it's also like for sewing. It's like a thumb.
Oh,
What
a
do you?
thimble.
Thimble.
A thimble.
A thimble.
That's what it is. I saw.
Obviously,
Okay,
you do a lot of sewing.
so I'm looking out my window and I see a plane drop a chemtrail very, very low to the ground, like very low. I've never seen something so low.
Wow.
Passes this way, right? Leaves a trail. As the plane goes out of view, I see a thistle with its nose blinking coming in the opposite direction. And what it does is
Oh,
it twirls around the trail. I don't know what the hell
oh,
it did, but it twirled around it. We can't, nothing we have can do that maneuver because it just like threaded the freaking trail. It was craziest thing, but his nose was blinking and it looked just like a thistle, like a thimble. And then it did that and then just flew off and disappeared again.
what are the
That'll happen
possibilities
within
that that's a military uh, based R&D type of thing, like Skunk Works,
you know
or
that
some
one
of these?
could have definitely been something, some technology that we don't know. But I just found
Mhm.
it fascinating because even one of my other, so I have a friend, was it William Laffey? He kind
Uh-huh.
of runs in our circles. He posted something about a week later, and he took a picture of that exact same thimble. And
Really?
he was in North Dakota, I believe,
Uh-huh.
somewhere on the east coast. So he was states away from me, and he saw the same thing. He took a picture of it, and I was like, that's in the nose was lit up just like the way I saw it. I was like, that's what I saw.
Oh, wow.
That's the exact same thing that I saw. So I see it here in New Mexico. He sees it out in the west and the east coast somewhere,
Wow.
literally within a week. So my brother-in-law saw it too, saw the orb. So these things are not just anomalies. They're not something that I concocted in my mind or I mistaken for
Right.
something. It was a genuine thing that more than one person saw.
And
Uh,
that's the best one because a
those are the
shared
best ones.
experience doesn't mean it's isolated and you can't
That's
be
right.
written off.
That's
That's
right.
why the work that we're doing right now is so important because of all of the visual sightings we're getting from the globe. Everyone around the world contributes, and
Yeah.
we bring it up in the show and discuss what we're actually seeing and how these
Hmm.
changes are affecting everyone from the North Hemisphere to the South Hemisphere.
That's right.
The one that gets me on that is every time there's a full moon, there's always two of them. And when I take a picture, you see a smaller moon in the front, and then at first I thought it was like a reflection or the extra light, but no, it's a second.
Melanie, during that same year, because like 2016 and 2018 was
Uh-huh.
those 2 years were just some of the most, I guess, eye-opening years for me. I don't know if it was just me noticing at that time, or if something was
Hmm.
just trying to shake me awake and say, "Hey, pay
Yeah.
attention." During the, I think 2018, and I have pictures of it. I saw the moon literally disappear before my eyes
Ooh.
for about 10 minutes.
Mm.
It wasn't clouds because it was a completely clear day. Again, I have pictures
Oh,
of it.
wow.
There was a planet behind it, right?
Hmm.
But what made it disappear, was, I think, that there was something moved in front of it, blocked it for a little while, and then might have moved behind it or something, because there was, what I noticed in the sky was even in the dark of night. I don't know if you've ever been in New Mexico, but there's really little
Yes.
light pollution. It's not industrialized. It's really small communities. So it has some of the clearest, most non-polluted skies. I miss that so much about it, especially here. So it's so polluted, but um gosh, it was so clear.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, again, I kind of somebody remind me what I was saying. And just
About the now, have you ever been to Puya Cliff Dwellings in New
is
Mexico?
that a new? I'm not sure.
It's where they have the little caves in the side of the mountain, and then there is actually the foundations of the city on top.
Are you not talking about Chaco Mountain? Is that Chaco? Is that Chaco?
I'm not sure exactly, but I know it's called Puya Cliff Dwellings. But
There's
I
a
was
lot of
there.
really there's a lot of fascinating places there
Yeah,
in New
it
Mexico.
was relatively close to the place where they helped develop uh, the bomb that they used at the end of the Second World War. But the interesting thing was, I was in my late teens, and it's a very desert climate, and there it
That's what I was.
happens often. There can be
Thank you.
something outside that's just never rained on. But we're up walking around these pueblos, and I found the cover in perfect condition of a 1941 Life magazine cover with Deanna Durbin, the actress, on the front of it. And I picked it up and I took it to my dad. And I said, "How did this happen?" They had, I'm sure they must have had snow sometime in
Okay,
it 40 years later, or snow, or why didn't it blow away? How did it get there?
that's
It's always
interesting.
been one of those things that's just puzzled me.
Fascinating. So yeah, now Chris reminded me what I was saying. So because the skies are so clear, I when I looked up towards the moon and I saw two really dark circles. Even in the night sky, they stood out. So I went
Mhm.
inside, got my camera. At the time I had a pretty nice, like a $300 camera. It was a nice camera with night.
Uh-huh.
It did okay at night, but I took some
Yeah,
really interesting pictures, and there was definitely what looked like an object behind the moon. It was even the way it was lit up, everything was consistent with an object behind them. When I took a picture of that, it's on my
uh,
Facebook somewhere. I'll have to dig in for it, but I know it's there somewhere. But it was a fascinating night that night, and those 2 years just completely changed my mind, and I became obsessed. I with my
yeah,
the first one was the orb. That's the one when that year was when I picked up a camera. That's what led me to just be obsessed with. From then on, I started documenting everything. I started taking pictures, videos. That was the only thing I thought to do. You know what I mean?
yeah,
What was I don't know. I don't understand it. So all I could do is just record it and maybe look at it later. And that
yeah,
was always something that came kind of naturally. Nobody told me to do it. It just, and I think we all did that. I think we all, Sharon,
yeah,
I know, did that. I know Jillian did that. We all just started recording these things. Nobody told us to. It was just our
yeah.
instinct to just document it, and I
Yeah.
think that's why
Mhm.
we've
And that's
come
where
to that
I look
destination.
at the question of where do our thoughts come from? Because we're all united with the same idea, but we didn't
Absolutely.
find them by association. We're scattered. So that must mean
Yeah,
that somewhere out there in that ether, that thought process is out there. It just has to
yeah,
reach the right
Maybe.
brainwave.
The way I
right.
look at it, I've thought about this a lot, Sharon. I feel like it was you
A
know how there's
summoning.
you know how in the movies they have these the sleeper agents kind of, and
Yeah.
I'm just saying I
I
feel
agree.
like the information was there, but
Yeah,
something just kind of nudged us awake because the way that we all came to this place, it's all too similar. It's all way too similar for it to be just a
Yeah.
coincidence. When we had zero connection with each other, we were states away. You're
yeah,
on the bottom of the freaking planet from.
Yeah. Well, scientists still haven't worked out how our brains work, and they still cannot
yeah.
give us an accurate description of what consciousness is. They cannot give
Mm,
us an identity of what essence is, or what it means to live in this vessel. They cannot describe it. So what also I contemplate is when we go to sleep, we're relaxed and our body is inert. So our brain is still active. What is our brain doing?
A lot.
This is where that's where that philosophy comes from, that we can transverse universes with our minds.
Another reason why we do most of our best thinking at night, I think it's because all the outside noise is just calm. You know,
Right.
And not only that, our bodies.
I can't think straight in the day, and I think that's why I've been telling you guys earlier that I think I was telling you, Mark, earlier, that I think that's why I avoid the day, because life has become so hectic. You know,
Yeah.
especially me coming from New Mexico, where there's 1,200 people, there's 2 traffic lights, and then I come to this traffic. And Salt Lake City isn't that big, but it's grown a lot. The traffic.
But another thing is too, because of our circadian rhythms, the hormones that we produce, we always produce melatonin before we go to sleep. So that's another factor. The relaxing chemicals also help us think broader.
Really?
Yeah.
I
Now,
think
you mentioned something the other day, Sharon, and it was about an incident, the Earth stopping or something. I'm trying
The
to remember.
magnetic core, they teach us in science that we have a liquid core surrounded by different layers, an inner core, an outer core, a mantle. And we're only fleas on the surface of this outer core, the outer mantle. So what's happening is, because we're in the proximity of these planets, electromagnetic forces that are strong and weak and repel and attract each other are having effects on our magnetic fields right now. This is why it's fluxing so much. And also the interactions of the two suns. You've got to remember that there's a drawing factor coming off from that big sun. It's affecting the smaller sun. So again, the intensity of this sun is overriding our true sun, soul. And because of the intensity of that, plus the planets in its vicinities with all of their own electromagnetic charges and frequencies and radiations and things that are coming off of them, they're affecting how our stability is being affected. So this is why we're seeing the internal core heating up, and anything, if it heats it up, it expands. So this is why we're seeing the plates moving, the ring of fire volcanoes are all active right now. We've got that distribution of the magnetic pole that went from over Canada now to Siberia. We also have that magnetic anomaly that's in the Atlantic Ocean. It's moving across, which is actually affecting everything, because if you look at how magnetic waves travel through the earth, they're usually consistent. They come through the top into a torus field and back. Now this is also weakening, which is also letting extra magnetic radiation in, and that is also affecting our climate. This is why we have the shifting of the poles, all the weather's changed, our jet streams have actually converged now, so that they're not cycling the weather patterns that they should, and they're getting picked up and dispersed over areas that never had incidences of these things before.
Yeah, we're seeing snow in areas that are hot, and vice versa. Here we're freezing cold sometimes, and then it gets 70 degrees the next day. It's crazy. I was trying to explain to somebody the other day. He insisted that it was cars that were doing all the weird things, and I'm like, dude, that wouldn't explain how we.
That's giving ourselves a lot of credit.
Maybe a good
I mean,
maybe a
that's
good
only.
way.
I mean,
Maybe a good way to explain it to him would be think about when the world was shut down. India skies, China skies actually became clear for the first time in 40 years. So what did that do to the oxygen levels? What did that do to the nitrogen levels? What did that do to the carbon levels? The amount of sulfides in the air? So again, all of these things are necessary. And from the scientific reports that I've been reading, they're saying the more that we keep reducing oxygen out of our atmosphere is also detrimental to the carbon dioxide levels. And the nitrogen levels are also shifting as well. People don't realise that the chemistry involved in keeping our atmosphere stable is another part of the dynamics of this earth. And everything is changing. When we cut out a lot of emissions, the carbon dioxide that is regularly absorbed by the ocean can't get re-released again. So that's affecting our nitrogen levels. And if our nitrogen levels decrease, it affects our ozone levels. This is
Okay.
why as
we
humans,
I
this is why as humans we've got smaller, dynamically.
yeah.
Just have a look at how our anatomy has changed from the 1900s to now. We
Yeah.
used to be tall, robust, slim.
Yeah.
Now look at us, we're not the
Yeah.
same dynamics. And this is another thing that keeps getting pushed on society, body image. You've either got the body or you haven't. Too bad. Your genealogy has brought you to this point because of all the hereditary matching that's come to make you you. But at the same time, we don't associate all the other parts that come with it.
That's true.
The way we
Yeah.
look, the way we're shaped, the way our teeth are, all
Yep.
has to do with the geological necessities that we have are in the area where
Well,
we're
look how many
born or
people
we
are
live
complaining of aches and pains, all these new illnesses that are coming about. You can't just necessarily say that that's an influx from man. Yeah, we've contributed to things. We've messed around with things that we shouldn't mess around with. But at the same time, the natural biology of the earth dictates our size, how much air we're going to get
right?
to have,
Or skin
and how
color.
we live.
Our skin
Yeah.
for those
Exactly.
people who think your skin color makes you better or worse than other people. Science, what do they call that? The world, our science, all that dictates your color, dictates your shape, dictates all
Yeah.
of that stuff. So
That's the case
before
of
Why is it so
you get,
important to
star-bellied
separate
speeches.
us?
yeah,
Why is it
Star-bellied
separate us
speeches.
in little congregational groups?
yeah.
Like it wouldn't matter if I was from the moon. I still look like you, and this is the thing that probably bothers a lot of the people that are from the alien communities. How would they
Hey, Katie
react
Jones.
if they did have a contact with somebody? Would they show their true nature or their prejudices against them the same as they would with their
Ooh.
neighbour who's of a different origin to them?
And unfortunately, that's kind of been trained into us not
Hmm.
to be welcoming or trust people until
Yeah.
proven otherwise.
We
Uh,
don't realise how bigoted we really are, to tell you the truth, until we
yeah.
look inside ourselves and how we
Mhm.
react to situations. Like the
Absolutely.
perfect reflection of yourself is when you see something that somebody's doing and it bothers you, that's a
Mhm.
reflection of something you do not like within yourself. So you
Yes.
go and isolate that and go, oh, why is it they're doing it? And when you do it, you let yourself get away with it. It's acceptable. That's a paradigm that you can't live by. You can't have double standards.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, I agree. Now,
A
I
lot
have a
of
question.
oh,
If they're planting trees that are male trees, how does that affect colonization or bees, the bee population, which is responsible
it's,
for
it's well, I
what
mean,
does that do?
Look what's happening. When's the last time you
Well,
see a bee? No, like
you've
I
got to
think
think about what do bees do? Bees
I
have their own specific harmonics. This is why
Mhm.
when you go next to a beehive, they're all humming and it's all in the same frequency. You can go and
Oh,
take
that's
a
good.
machine and measure the frequency that they're
Mhm.
generating. And when they're in danger, they emit another frequency, or when there's danger, there's another frequency, or if they have a queen or something like that that's impacting them, any environmental factor like a fire, you'll hear
Okay.
them resonate at a different frequency. Even the ancient Egyptians knew about bees and their harmonics. This is where they
Mhm.
indulged in
really
flight. And if you
interesting.
actually look at how a bee flies, it
Mhm.
doesn't fly in a straight line. It actually hovers. And that's that generation of their wings that actually makes them produce those sounds. It's like
Okay.
whenever you have a cat will automatically harmonize with your heartbeat with their purr. All of these things have
Okay.
specific
Wow.
frequencies that can affect the human psyche. And it's exactly what we're experiencing now. With all of this interaction of the planets, people are experiencing dizziness, headaches, brain fog,
Mhm.
and yet they come back and revert it always back to what they did to the human society. Yes, that is one of the common factors, but we're being irradiated by all of this equipment constantly. If you took out an EMF reader and just held it near you, you
Uh,
will see how much radiation you're being bombarded with. And what does radiation do to cells? It alters
not
DNA.
good.
It alters DNA. So are we physically being altered by what's going on currently?
Now,
That's a good question.
considering that so much of the earth, the people, everything is a combination of energies and resonance, uh, that means we can have a negative impact. Uh, or do we adjust to the impact of having this alternate binary
Again,
system?
again, there's that scale that they
Mm-hmm.
introduced that said your frequency of vibration
Okay.
indicates where you are on that scale. And they say that things like spite, fear, grief are all at the lower vibrational end. What they say is that if you can harmonize and become a little bit more attuned with being positive and all of that kind of stuff, it puts the flow up higher. And we all have our own torus fields. It's just that we can't see them. And this is
Mm-hmm.
what they call the aura.
I
And
was just going to ask that.
the more that we increase our vibration, the further our biofield can expand. And this is what they're trying to say when it comes to quantum physics. If you have a particle here and introduce
Mm-hmm.
it to here, and they vibrate at the same notion, you can send that other particle to the other end of the universe and it will still be in harmony with this other particle. Exactly the same with us. You come into somebody else's field, you can affect their field directly, but without even having to say a word, just from your physical
Yes.
feelings and your emotions. It's like
Sam
kids
says,
know when they're in trouble by the look on your face.
Sam
You don't
says
have to
that
say
Yes.
a single word.
Sam has a saying for it. It's likeness identification. What is it? Proton likeness identification. Or you just kind of
The unification model,
no.
where
Okay.
It says
everyone believes that um, in chemistry they show us that we have the neutrons, the protons, and the electrons, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't tell you that any one point in space that electron could be anywhere within the
Oh, wow.
field of that proton.
yeah.
It could be
Okay.
anywhere. And it moves so quickly within that quantum field, it's like it's in every point in space all at the same time. That's that three body problem we kept talking about.
Okay.
Mm.
We're
Okay.
living in this particular time frame, but how do we know that concepts of us aren't living in other time frames as well? That's where we talk about
I
parallel
agree with that.
universes.
And time is not linear.
Mm.
No,
Yeah.
gosh, no.
So that also gives possibilities, endless possibilities there as well.
Yeah.
Well, this is why Einstein was so wrong. He tried to put nuts and bolts together that were the wrong shape and the wrong size,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
that's what the thought process was at the time. And you got to
Mm-hmm.
remember, a lot of those guys were all part of a club. They
Yeah,
were all
That's,
they
yes.
continue.
Masonics. They were all Freemasons.
And
So when
then
Freemasons all stick together, what do? They have their own little occult knowledge that they keep for themselves, and they only transmit what they want you to hear.
yep. Yeah.
So
And
this
that
But
is
what
why
if
continues. That
that
I
had
continue,
agree.
actually
continues.
been shared? If that had been shared, where would we be?
Oh,
You
jeez.
know,
Well,
how
it
many?
depends on what path you follow, because you have,
Uh,
again, the good side and the bad side.
yeah.
See, a lot of Masons that get inducted into some of these things think that they're giving back to society, because they are a charitable organisation and they do fundraising and all the rest of it. But if you look at their rituals and their occult part of it, it's very dark. And we're talking
It
very
is.
dark.
Yeah.
Some of their, I can't really tell you what some of the rituals are, but
Yeah.
they are very dark.
Yeah, they are. They sure are.
That,
And
that's
some
an
of these are
interesting.
supposed to have been symbolic to some of the other rituals they've had going all the way back in time. And what do we have in our literature about humans against humans? Blood sacrifice and all that kind of stuff. Now,
Yes.
some of the victims, did they actually agree to being a sacrifice? Or
Mm.
were they
Somehow I
drugged
don't think.
and this is what I mean, they had to be put in that situation, under duress for them to satisfy whatever it was, to satisfy the gods, to bring on the elements, to help the rain come, whatever the philosophy was at the time. So
And
this goes back
yeah,
such a long way. But what we need to know and what we need to learn as humans is to get over our ego selves
yes,
and try and figure out how we can make the world a better place. How do we topple the governments and the organizations that are putting us in these situations? We all have a voice, and this is what the problem is. Not enough of us are using our voices. We're expecting
absolutely.
somebody else to get our hands dirty to do it.
Yes.
We need more people out there to speak up.
Well, and also nobody. And I was saying this, and I've been saying this for a while. Is like nobody has any thoughts of their own. Everybody just turns a TV on and just absorbs what they're told. And if we
Yeah,
keep doing that, I mean, geez, guys, if you really want to learn about the world around you, go learn it outside. Go
yeah,
make observations. Look at observe where the sun rises, where it sets. Look at the weather patterns. Look at
Yes.
all this stuff that you can learn on your own. You don't have to
yep,
trust somebody else to learn these things. Yeah, sure, there's some things that you have to read about, but if you can help it, get out there and be self-taught, guys, because
yep.
there's a lot of information out there that they're not just going to hand over to you. Or
And
Guys,
even
guys, I think that's a beautiful note to end the show. I think. What do you think,
Yeah,
guys?
you've got to get to bed, don't you? Oh, we're sorry,
Yes,
Mark.
late here.
we could be
You're
here
already-
for hours.
Yes,
Yes,
if you
Now I
want.
know how we do, and now I know how easy it is to do 5-6 hours on.
I
Yeah.
I agree.
Yes.
It's already
Any
high.
final last thoughts, guys, for the audience?
One thing I want to say, Chris, I want to hear more about your moon episode that you had too with the moon disappearing. Maybe we could talk about it on Saturday
Yeah,
on the
that
show.
would
'Cause
be lovely. Yes, I will
really would
definitely
love to hear
tune
about
in.
that.
And any other events that you feel is outside the norm that you haven't
Yeah,
been able to discuss on a level like ours.
right, right.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
It
Jesus.
was
It
great
was
to hang
so
out with
nice
you
to
guys.
meet you.
We had been
another
talking
great
about this. I
session.
thought
Thank you, guys.
that'd be a good way to start the year and do something
Yes,
different. So
and
Yep.
yeah.
as always, Sharon, you're my favorite person, and
Oh, thank you.
I
Pleasure to
always,
be here.
and it's lovely to be with you.
Yeah.
And thank you, Mark, our fearless leader.
Yes, indeed.
Mark,
Thank
it was
you,
nice
guys.
nice to have. Thank you for having me on the show. It was
Yep.
fun. It was fun.
This
Have
was
a good week,
wonderful.
everyone.
We can go
Thank
off
you.
topic.